So I already gave you an example of how this will classify all the documents, but let's actually go through a worked example just to be clear. That may help you better than just seeing the slides. So before the break, we went through this particular example of 10 documents that we are trying to classify as spam or not. I mean, we wanted to build a classifier on these, uh, on these test documents, which could be spam or not spam, based on this training data, which had 10 documents. Now, these entries were either a 0 or a 1. So here's a new version of the table where we are not just going to keep track of the presence of the word cheap in document 2. We'll also keep track of how many times the word cheap occurred. So this is like now the transition from the term document incidence matrix to the count matrix that we saw in chapter 6. Okay, so these are the term frequencies now. Okay, some of them will continue to be 1 because the word appeared just once in the document, but you can see that some of the ones have been now replaced by larger numbers. The zeros have continued to remain zeros, because if a word was not found in a document, it's going to be denoted as a 0. So let's now compute let's now compute the let's now try to classify this test document now based on this newer model. So this is the document D, buy a cheap dinner. Now again, we want to compute the probability that given this document, it belongs to class C1, sorry, the class spam. And we want to compute the probability that it belongs to the class not spam. And we want to see which of them is the larger one. And by Bayes theorem, this will be the probability of D given spam times the probability of spam divided by the probability of D. It's the same formula as before. And this will be the probability of D given not spam times the probability of spam divided by the probability of D. And again, we don't care about the denominator because the relative values are what matter. And again, the prior probabilities of, oh sorry, this is not spam. The prior probabilities of these two classes are going to remain the same. So this will continue to be 0.3. This will continue to be 0.7. The difference is going to come in how we compute these two probabilities. So what is probability of D given spam? So this is the probability of buy cheap dinner given spam. Again, we'll use the naive assumption and say that we're going to split this as probability of, so overall this is the probability that that a random document generated from the spam class is exactly this one, buy cheap dinner. So this is the probability that the first word generated is buy multiplied by the probability that the second word generated is cheap multiplied by the probability that the third word generated is dinner. So this formula also appears to be the same, although not identical, because in the previous version there were other terms. There were other terms standing for the absence of the other terms in the vocabulary. Now we are not worried about the absence of the other terms. We are just looking at the probability that a document that is a random document generated from the spam class will have buy as the first word, cheap as the second word, and dinner as the third word. What is the probability that buy will be the first word? Well, it's just the unigram probability of buy in the spam class. So it's just the collection frequency of buy in documents of the spam class. This similarly will be the collection frequency of the word cheap in documents of the spam class. And note that by collection frequency, I mean the number of times buy appeared in the spam class in the training phase. And when I say the number of times, even multiple occurrences of the word in the same document will be counted multiple times. Right? So they will be counted as multiple occurrences. They won't be counted as a single occurrence. Divided by the total number of words in documents of the spam class. So we are kind of looking at word statistics here. What were the total number of words in the spam class? And among all those words, how many times did the word buy appear? So what would be the answer? What would be the probability of buy given spam from this table? What would be the numerator? Just focus on the numerator.
So the table is not visible here, sir.
Oh, it's not visible? So this is a 0. You're not able to make out that this is a 0, 0, 0, 0, 2.
Uh,
Oh, my. Mhm. So is it fuzzy or is the font size small?
huh? So we got disconnected from WebEx.
So is it possible to connect them because they have to see the example? Okay. So you can see the screen now?
Sir, 2 minutes, sir. 2 minutes. Sir.
Okay. Yeah,
So we can start, sir.
we can start. Okay. So here is, so I hope you were able to see this particular formula, right? You
Yes,
saw
sir.
this formula before? Okay. So what I asked you was, how would you estimate these terms? So let's say probability of buy given spam. This would be the number of times buy appeared in the spam class in total, counting multiple occurrences, divided by the total number of words in documents of the spam class. So based on this table, what would be the probability of buy given spam? So here's the word buy. And here are the 3 documents corresponding to the spam class.
So it would be so 2 divided by
Yeah, the numerator would be 2 because how many times does the word buy appear in the spam class? 0 plus 0 plus 2. And what's the total number of words that appear in the spam class? So there are 3 documents in the spam
12,
class.
20, sir.
20. Okay, let's see. This document has 5 words. Okay, so 5 plus the 4th document has, which is also in the spam class, has 7 words. And the 5th document has 8 words. So that's correct. So this is 2 divided by 20. Similarly, you would compute the probability of cheap given the spam class and probability of dinner given the spam class, and then multiply them all together. So this would give you this particular term. And you know what the prior probabilities are. So you have to just compute these two and then compare the values. So note that it's not that, I mean, the principle is not different. In fact, the formulas are also almost the same. But the way in which you compute these probabilities is firstly focus only on the terms that are present. Okay, imagine how to generate this particular document from that particular class without bothering about the terms that are not there. So in the multivariate Bernoulli model, which was the earlier model we saw, there would be always V terms in total in this product, right? Because you would be accounting for the terms that are present in the document as well as all the terms that are absent. Some of them would be probabilities, some of them would be 1 minus their respective probabilities. But the total number of terms would always be V. Here, the total number of terms is equal to the number of terms in the document, because you're only looking at the words that are present in the document. That's one difference. The second difference is that you are considering the frequency of the words even within a document. You're not just looking at presence or absence. You're keeping track of the total number of times the word appeared all throughout the training set for that particular class. So this is called the multinomial model, the multinomial naive Bayes model. And as you can imagine, because this accounts for the term frequencies also, this model works better than the other model. This model works better for text classification than the other model, because it's focusing only on the terms that are in the document instead of every single term in the vocabulary. And it's focusing on the actual collection frequencies instead of just presence or absence. So it's more specific, and it's more specific in both ways, and so it works better intuitively. I mean, empirically it works better, but intuitively you can justify why you would expect it to work better. Okay, so there are a couple of slides on the difference between the two models. I've already explained them, but here they are again. In the multivariate Bernoulli model, which was the earlier model, you will have one product term for every vocabulary. For every term in the vocabulary, you will have one probability term in the product. Okay, I mean, this is just another way to say it. It's a more complicated way to say it, but I just explained that to you in the previous slide. Whereas in the multinomial model, you only have a product term for every term that actually appears in the document. And the naive assumption in the naive Bayes algorithm is the same in both models. The second assumption that we made here is, this is another assumption that is implicit, although I didn't explicitly mention it. When you compute the probability of a word appearing in a document of a particular class, you don't care about its position. This is an assumption in both models actually, because in the first model you are not even keeping track of multiple occurrences, so obviously you're not keeping track of the positions. Here also you're not keeping track of the positions, right? It's possible that the word the, so in real English sentences, the word the will probably never appear as the second word of a sentence. It will appear probably either as the first word or later on in the sentence. But I don't know if it will ever appear grammatically, in a grammatically correct way, as the second word of a sentence. But the chances are very low even if it does. But here we don't care. We're just looking at the probability that the word the appeared in the collection. So whether in our given document, whether the word the appeared in the second position or whether it appeared in the first position or the third position, we are going to use the same values of the probability that from the model. And as I showed you, these estimates are mean different things. In the first model, this is the fraction of documents in which the word appears, and this is the fraction of times in which the word appears among all the words in the documents of that class. Okay. The other thing that you have to note here is that because we are multiplying probabilities in coming up with the estimates for these two probabilities that we are interested in either model, we'll be multiplying a large number of probabilities here. So there is the possibility that if you actually implement it on a machine, okay, there'll be an underflow error because there are so many terms being multiplied, each of which is less than 1. So the actual value will be very, very, very small, and you can easily have an underflow error on your machine. So instead of multiplying the terms, we just take the log of the probabilities and add the logs. If this term, if this is less than this, then log of this will also be less than log of this, because log is a monotonic function, monotonically increasing function. If x is less than y, log x is less than log y. So if we take the log of both sides, we won't have to multiply these probabilities, we will have to add the logs. And when you're adding a bunch of, negative numbers, obviously the log of a number between 0 and 1 will be a negative valued number. Then you'll be adding up a bunch of negative numbers, and the possibility of an error, or an overflow or an underflow is going to be small. It's going to be very likely that you'll get an underflow if you literally multiply the probabilities in a long chain. Okay, this was a small document, but real documents will be very large. So that's one thing you have to remember. And the other thing you have to remember is that in order to improve the quality of classification, there is something called feature selection that's done. So feature selection is analogous to what we did in if you look at the first 5 or 6 chapters, we talked about stop word elimination, right? We said, in order to save space, conserve space in the index, we could decide not to maintain stop words in the index. That will cut down the size of the positional index by a significant amount. So something similar can be done here. In order to make this more manageable, we can ignore the terms that are stop words. We can also ignore terms that occur just once, or which occur very, very rarely in the collection as a whole. So we can focus on terms that actually matter for the classification, and thereby we can cut down the size of the vocabulary by focusing only on a subset of terms that actually occur. Okay, so you're going to use the commonest terms, but you could eliminate the stop words in this way. But if you just focus on the commonest terms that appear in the documents of those classes, and just drop the rare terms, you'll cut down the size of your vocabulary significantly, and then you'll be able to work with less space on your machine. So, and there are more complicated ways to do feature selection, which we are not going to talk about. You can read about it in the book if you are interested, but just as a rough heuristic, we just drop the terms that are very rare, and we can ignore words like the and all, which don't help us distinguish between classes in. Any questions? I mean, these are the concepts associated with naive. One last thing that I want to mention is how to compute the performance of a classification algorithm. It's kind of similar to how we computed the performance of a clustering algorithm. You can define a precision and a recall measure for each class. Okay, so the precision measure would be among all the documents that you classified in class C, how many of them in reality belong to class C? That would be a measure of precision. And among all the documents that in reality belong to class, how many did you actually classify in class C? That would be a measure of recall. And then you can compute an F score by taking the harmonic mean. And then you can average out that F score for all the classes and come up with some number which will tell you how good your classification accuracy is. So that finishes with a particular chapter, at least portion that I wanted to cover.